Hi, I'm Tom, one of the staff mechanics from the London Bike Kitchen. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do an M-check, which is the comprehensive overview we do to see what's wrong with your bike, and then we'll get into some maintenance and repair issues. When we do the M-check, we go over the bicycle making the shape of a capital M. Starting at the rear hub, we go up through the rear brake. We can go by the seat post and seat post clamp for a second before we come down to the front derailleur and the bottom bracket. Move up again to the headset and then down to the front wheel. The way to remember that you check every component is to follow through in the shape of a capital M. So let's get started with the rear wheel. If you're just investigating to make sure that your bicycle is safe to ride, you can hold the wheel at two places on the tire and rock it back and forth. What you're looking for here is a little click in the ball bearings. If your ball bearings are poorly adjusted, you'll be able to rock the wheel side to side, perpendicular to the direction of drive. If you can't do that, then you should move on and try to give the wheel a spin. If it spins smoothly, which it does in this case, then you're well adjusted. If there's any grit or knocking at this point, then you have to think about redoing your ball bearings. While you're back here, it's a good time to check out the indexing on your rear derailleur. You'll notice that on this bicycle, when I shift up or down one gear, it shifts smoothly and eagerly. If there's any hesitation, shifting in one direction or the other, whoop, like right there, you want to take note of that. That's something that we can adjust later on. Once you've made sure that your derailleur and your hub are functioning properly, move up to the rear brake. The checkout procedure for both brakes is the same, so you might want to do both of them at the same time. So find the brake lever that corresponds to the rear brake, and you should have it engage at 1/3 pull and bottom out at 2/3. Meaning that you shouldn't be able to push your brake lever past 2/3 of the way towards your handlebar. If you can press your brake lever all the way to the handlebar, you're not going to be able to get appropriate stopping power because the brake lever will hit the handlebar and stop the brake from actuating. As you press the brake lever down, you'll notice that the brake pads close onto the rim. They should close equally. They should travel an equal distance from the pivot to the wheel. If one of them moves and the other doesn't, you'll need to take note of that, and when we get into adjusting brakes, we can talk about how we'll take care of that issue. The brake pads should hit the rim square on. They shouldn't be at a noticeable angle. It's acceptable to have the front of the brake pad slightly closer to the rim than the rear. This is called toe. Some mechanics will set the brakes up that way to reduce the squeaking sound that you have when you're braking. If your brakes aren't towed in, that's generally acceptable as well. When you're checking your brakes, take a look at the condition of your brake pads. I have two examples here. This brake pad is brand new, right out of the box. This brake pad is one of our examples of something that needs to be replaced. We keep these in the shop to show people when they need to replace their brake pads, because it's maybe not immediately obvious. Most brakes use this type pad. This is a cantilever brake, but also these pads are used on V brakes. You'll see that this pad comes with 3 wear lines. As the pad wears, you'll see that these wear lines disappear and you get a flat surface like this. Hopefully you won't ever get the brake to look like this. You replace the pads before it looks like that when you still have some of these indicators left. Wearing it past this point is extremely dangerous because there's a metal support in here that's going to rub against your rim surface and it's going to gouge into it. Take a look now at your brakes and see if there's any excessive wear on the brake pad. If there's a wear line indicator, you want to see if the brake has worn past that. Also at this point, you want to see if your cable has any obvious fraying or corrosion, especially at the points where it mounts on one of these anchor bolts. The next step in the M-check will be to come back down to the front derailleur and the bottom bracket. The front derailleur checkout procedure is the same as the rear derailleur. You should be able to shift all the way to the limit of the shifter without having the front derailleur pull the chain off the bicycle in either direction. If you notice that you can get the chain to come off the bicycle in normal shifting, then we need to talk about setting your limit screws, which we'll do in another video. For the time being, just make sure that you can shift into each gear smoothly and in a position where the chain does not rub on the inside of the front derailleur. Checking out the bottom bracket, put one hand on each crank. And just like you did when you were checking out the rear wheel, try to rock them back and forth perpendicular to the direction of drive. If you can feel a little knock back and forth, that means you don't have enough tension on the ball bearings in your bottom bracket. Again, that's something that we'll sort out in a different video. So once you've determined that there isn't too much play in your bottom bracket, spin the cranks backwards. Take note of any grit or sandy feeling at this point. If you feel like there's too much resistance on the cranks, if you don't have a smooth rotation, then you're going to want to repack your bottom bracket. Or if you have a cartridge-style bottom bracket, you might want to think about replacing it. At this point, give your pedals a little spin, and it's exactly the same operation. If the ball bearings are worn out or if they need to be lubricated, you're going to feel that. There's going to be some rocking side to side, or they're going to be really gritty going backwards and forwards. From there, we go up to the right cap of the M, and we get to the headset. The word headset refers to the ball bearing set that allows the handlebars on the bicycle to spin back and forth. So the headset on this bicycle is only the ball bearing surface where my fingers are right now. This is the top cup of the headset, and this is the bottom cup. To check the headset out, hold down your front brake, put one hand on the front wheel, and try to rock it back and forth. You'll feel some clicking along this axis if there's any problem with your headset. Remember, what we're checking here is not the front wheel, but actually these ball bearings. So this one is really solid. There's no click in it. If you do have a click in it, you'll take that out by putting more tension on the headset, either with a threaded nut here or by adjusting a threadless headset on top. If you find that you have too much tension in your headset, turning the handlebars from side to side will be difficult or gritty. You may feel like there's a click at one point in your headset. All of that can be adjusted, or in a worst case scenario, the headset can be removed and replaced. Coming down to the final stop on the M check, we have the front wheel. Just like with the rear wheel, rock the wheel side to side, and then spin it forwards and backwards. Take note of anything unusual. Look at the front brake like you did in the rear brake. And take note of the condition of your tire and your rim. Any damage to either of these should be fairly obvious. Remove any glass from the tire and look for nicks, and look for a concave surface on your rim. The braking surface on the rim over time will start to collapse. If it makes a concave shape, that means that the brake pads have started to push into the rim and it's starting to fail.